I just wanted to very quickly introduce myself. My name is Luke, as you probably guessed by that name just in the bottom corner there. I am a 32-year-old digital marketing manager. I've been at Versantus for just over 2.5, almost 3 years, but I've been in marketing for almost 10 years now. And yeah, it's aged me a little bit, as you can see. I've been really, really busy over the past 12 months. I got married in November last year. Recently came back just a couple of weeks ago from my honeymoon in America. And I've got a baby on the way, first-time dad, due in October. So on top of all of the marketing activities, I like to keep myself very, very busy. Just thought I'd give you a little bit of information about myself. I've also done a quick pre-brief just so you understand what to expect during this session. So within this particular call, I do really plan to pack in as much value as possible. So I might speak a little quicker than usual just to ensure that you have it. But of course, there will be a recording of this which will be sent to you if you'd like to look back over it as well. This talk is going to be for those people who understand Google Ads at an intermediate level as well. I've tried to make it as friendly as possible for everybody, but again, there will be kind of some people that maybe know a little bit more and some people that might know a little bit less. And as Rose mentioned at the very start as well, feel free to leave any questions in the chat. There will be a Q&A at the end if I can keep it to time. And also there is an opportunity to have a one-to-one with me as well at a later date. So if there are more in-depth questions you'd like to ask, don't panic too much. We can always arrange that separately. So first of all, I just want to get a feeling for the room in terms of how confident you currently are with Google Ads. So if you could be so kind as to just pop open the chat window, it's a little kind of speech sort of quotation box just down below, and give me 1 to 10 on how confident you are. 10 being super confident on Google Ads and 1 being not so much at all. Thank you all so much for being quick on that one as well. So we've got a few sort of 7s and above, 8s, 5s, perfect, perfect, 4 and 6. Okay, so I think definitely from in terms of intermediate level, I can see that you're all definitely up there. And there's some pros here as well, so I could definitely probably learn a thing or two from you. So feel free as well if you've got any points you want to add at the end of this session. Okay, great. Well, first of all, I want to warm up with a small quiz, and I'm showing my age here a little bit because Who Wants to Be a Millionaire for me is Chris Tarrant. I know it's now Jeremy Clarkson, but just for me personally, I feel like Chris Tarrant was the guy. So this is just a very small quiz just to get thinking about Google Ads and the impact that it's having as well currently. So first of all, and I feel free to use the chat box to put your potential answers in. Google has what percentage of the search engine market share in the United Kingdom? Out of 100%, what percentage do you think Google has? In the UK, feel free to enter in there. We've got 90%, 94%, Tatiana, 80%, 98%. Okay, we're all pretty high in the percentage. Can I Google it? Absolutely not. 70%, 85%. Okay, great. So a lot of you were pretty much bang on the money there. It's around 94%, which is quite a large percent, but I believe we all kind of thought it would be around that number. Here's one for you though. In terms of dollars, what is the projected amount companies will spend on search advertising globally in 2025? And I will give you a little helping hand here. It's more than Elon Musk's pay packet that he really wants. Got 200 billion from Adam White. 500 million, okay. An impalpable number. Yeah. You're not wrong, Nikita, you're not wrong. Anyone else want to be brave enough? No? Okay. It's $351.5 billion is the projected amount companies will spend on search advertising in 2025. And how much do you think of that is ad revenue for Google? What Google made last year? How much do you think they made out of that spend? I'll skip ahead on this one and let you know. It was $265 billion US dollars, which is a whopping 75% of the projected ad spend for 2025, which is huge. Okay, and what percentage of marketers state that PPC ads are vital to their company's success? Out of 100%. Rose with the 75%, Nikita with the 70%, 75%, okay, 45, 80. The answer is 79%. So the majority of marketers consider it vital for their company's success as well. So it is still holding a lot of ground. I know there's a lot of movement in the paid space at the moment with AI especially. It's still holding a lot of importance. But before I get started with this presentation, I just want to add that you all know this anyway, but occasionally we'll talk to individuals that may not be aware that Google Ads shouldn't be seen as an infinite money glitch. And what I mean by that is simply putting more money in doesn't always equal more money out. And some people still get confused by that concept, even Google themselves at times. In fact, 94% of users immediately skip over paid search ads, and we're probably all guilty of doing that ourselves, even if we manage Google Ads, where we're just skipping over because we want to basically see what is the top organic ranking. Anyone want to admit that? Do they do that quite often? Feel free just to maybe put a thumbs up in the chat. Yeah, I thought so. Well done, Nikita. I think you're the only one that's admitted it. Oh no, we've got some more. So what are the common mistakes made when managing Google Ads? So I've got 10 points here. I'm going to try and get through them as quickly and as effectively as possible for you. The first one is simply just a messy structure. For me, just equals messy results. We like to ensure that we set good foundations when we build campaigns, because ultimately that gives you the most control. So what do I mean by that? So this example that I've got on the screen here, if you consider your Google Ads account, so you see that at the very top in purple, then consider it to be layers in terms of the next layer being the campaign level, and then the next layer being the ad group level within a said campaign, and then the level within that ad group, you can see there is the ads themselves with the keywords. I've got an example here with care homes because we focused a lot on the care industry. We work with a couple of care home providers within our Google Ads remit, so I just thought that would be fitting. So when you're thinking of structuring your Google search ads, think about applying them by intent and theme. So we've got here an example of a care home specifically in a particular region, and then in the ad group itself, it's the care home in, for example, Oxford. There might be multiple areas within that region that you'd want to target. So it's all about separating them out. This helps to avoid overlapping keywords, especially if you've got multiple campaigns going off at once. You don't want to be cannibalizing visibility in one area and the other area and spending money. You just want it to be nice, simple, and easy to understand. This helps from a management perspective, but it also helps understand where your budget is going and how you're targeting each of your individual campaigns. I've also put here that you might want to separate branded and non-branded targeting as well. You don't really want to get those two blended together because it can be very murky in terms of what you're then spending your money on, whereas organic rankings, for example, might be healthy in particular areas and non-healthy in other areas. You want to focus on your weaknesses for paid rather than your strengths. In point 2, I've got no one wants to click on a terrible ad, let's say. So it's very easy sometimes to think about the way ads are structured, to think about what you're actually looking to achieve at the end of the ad, whether it be inquiry signups or purchases, etc. But sometimes the ad writing itself kind of gets put on the sidelines. So, and that is, again, I've noticed, I say you should focus on your ad text. Unless you're an established brand, it seems, from the research that I've made, some established brands do take the easy route because they've already built that reputation and authority. I've noticed that Nike, for example, have quite a simple Google search ad here. Nike running shoes, go the distance. They don't need to say anymore. You know who they are. You're going to click through anyway. I thought Wayfair were really interesting. A lot of people know who they are, but again, this is probably an example of not a great looking ad, but because they've got that established brand equity, they do absolutely fine. So furniture, Oxford, doesn't look great. They're likely to get clicks still off the back of it. So unless you're established, I would recommend not following this particular route. And instead, you want to consider a couple of aspects when you're building your search ads out, in particular for Google Ads. First and foremost, you want to make sure that the users, so your target audience, goals and pain points are discussed within the ad itself. You want to make sure that the call to actions are really direct. So in the very top here, I've just done a very quick example. I'm currently looking for another car because I've got a child on the way, and me and my wife only have 2 3-door cars, and I need something that's family friendly, 5-door, and it's going to suit our purpose. So when I typed in certified pre-used cars, these are some of the ad examples that I got. And I really liked Volvo's at the very top here, where they instantly call out what I typed in. So the keyword certified used, because I'm not looking for a brand new car, so it's accurate for my search type. And a nice call to action of view stock online. And then you've got other examples here, Car Gurus, where they use, and they've got really nice use of what's called site link extensions, otherwise known as assets now on Google Ads, where there's additional information here. I can see the rating. I can go straight to used cars, cheap cars, approved cars. So they've really hit those goals and those potential pain points that I've got. If I'm looking for certified used, I'm likely looking for a cheaper alternative. So they're tackling multiple levels of my interest and intent here, which is really nice. And then I've just got Car Gurus again at the very bottom, where again, they're targeting my pain points. I might be looking for a cheap car. I might not be, but the chances are I probably am. And what I've got here as well is that you want to test multiple versions of your ad. So another mistake that people make is when they've got a campaign, so remember that campaign level that we saw, and then the ad group, and then the ad, they leave just one ad there. Now, Google's got really good at automatically and dynamically shifting your headlines around in your descriptions. However, that's not to say that you can't build more variants and test to see what works and what doesn't. So always have a couple of variants active at one time. Never leave it as one, because you're only starving yourself of more information that could improve your ads even further. And then the most important aspect, and the reason I've left it till last, is ensuring that your messaging aligns with your targeting. This is absolutely crucial and often overlooked. So when you're writing your ad messages, Google will do a good job at hinting to you that you need to add more keywords in your headlines or descriptions that you've got in your keyword pools. Now, don't mistake that score. It will give you like an excellent score, an average score, a poor score. There are times where I find that actually, for it to suit your ad, you might need it to be, to Google standards, average rather than excellent. A lot of people strive for that excellent, but remember, the ad has to make sense. So when you're writing the ad, look at the preview window. If it makes sense, great. If it doesn't, make adjustments. And even if you make those adjustments and it makes sense, and Google's saying, well, actually, you were excellent, now you're average, I would rather be average and have my ads sound like me and make sense to me. And I find from the years of doing this that those ads perform just, and sometimes most likely even better than excellent rated ads as well. So this is just a point to make on sometimes confusion of Google's guidance as well, a little bit. Do this right, and you can be in the top 3 paid ads on Google search. So you'll see that at the very top, that some of you sometimes skip. They receive 41% of the total ad clicks. So when you've got an ad that's doing well, Google looks at it and goes, yes, you're hitting the main keyword points here. It's relevant for your target audience. Your landing page makes sense as well. I'm going to stick you at the very top here, depending on, again, how many people are bidding on these keywords. Those 3, the top spots, are the ones you really want to go after. It's okay to have those lower position ads, but you want to work your way to the top ones, because that's when your ads start to really take off. So on point 3 here, I just want to add that Google is happy to take your money I've probably rather unfairly mentioned here that blindly following Google's advice is like letting a casino tell you how to gamble smarter. I will give Google some credit in case any reps have managed to infiltrate this particular talk today. However, I just want to highlight some of the traps that I've seen a lot of our clients fall into from time to time. And I'm sure you're all super familiar with the recommendations tab in particular, where it will give you a percentage, it will give you recommendations on what you should be doing with your campaigns. And if you notice, if you dismiss the campaign, your score still goes up. Now, that's not to say just dismiss all of these recommendations so that you maintain a 100% score, but do look at them. And if they don't suit your purpose or your strategy of where you're looking to go, feel free to dismiss them. In all honesty, I dismiss, I would say 90 to 95% of the recommendations for most of our clients because we have particular objectives and we manage very frequently, so we don't need necessarily to look at them. What we do find is sometimes the most helpful one can sometimes be if it flags conflicting keywords, where you might have a negative keyword and a target keyword that are very similar. That sometimes happens. That's handy for that purpose, but for the most part, not super useful. Review your auto-applied changes regularly as well. So I'm sure most of us have gone into the auto-applied changes and switched them all off because it can play havoc if you are away for a week, let's say, like I was in Miami, and then it decides to update or delete a load of keywords, etc. Luckily, I have a really talented team to keep an eye on things whilst I'm away as well. But that can be frustrating. And I find that there is one particular move Google makes where they will pause low or inactive keywords, even if you've toggled all of the auto recommendations off, which can be frustrating because although they're clearing up your keywords to a degree, you may still want the potential chance of getting a click on some of those. So worth being in your ads frequently if you can, every couple of days at least, just to prevent that at this time until they decide to put a toggle to stop that as well. If you do go ahead with any of Google's recommendations, then try to test in isolation as well. And I just wanted to add here as well that not all Google reps are bad. A lot of them unfortunately stick to a script where it's just wanting to up your budget or create a performance max campaign with little knowledge or understanding as to what you're actually trying to achieve. Now, you can break them out of this script by just asking them specific questions. So my recommendation to you is if you do need rep support, they're great for when you've got issues like disapproved ads or problems with specific policy issues. They're fantastic at giving you campaign guidance if you know the questions to ask up front. So try do your homework before you take these calls. Otherwise, they can just leave you down quite an expensive and very unstrategic path. Number 4 is identify the holes in your budget bucket. So I've got here, a budget is only as good as the areas it's spending most on. So this is another common problem that I've seen when we jump on board and we do audits for potential clients of ours as well, where they've got a particular budget. And the first thing they say to us is, should we be spending more on Google Ads to get more performance? And my response is always normally, do you know that you're getting the most out of your current budget? Because I'm a big fan of squeezing the current budget to as far as it can go first, so we know it's optimal before we then think about applying more budget. Because it can start getting dangerous and start getting expensive. And if you don't know where your budget's going, then that's where it starts to kind of go down quite a horrible route where you start to get put off Google Ads as well because you're not getting the return. And this kind of goes back to my ensuring that your structure is set up correctly. If you've got a nice clean structure, you know each of your campaigns, what they're targeting, the keywords they're targeting, then you know exactly how much you're spending per each of those campaigns, and you know the return per each, and you know who you're targeting per each. So it's really important to have that clear understanding, not only for a return perspective, but from a management perspective to make your life easier as well. So in terms of, and this is a really important aspect, by the way, this bit probably is the most valuable piece of information in the entire presentation here, because this can save you a lot of money, which you can then put towards more intent, more high quality search traffic. So Consider using search term reports. I'm sure many of you, can you give me some thumbs up if many of you use the search term reports and you go in there and you exclude or include? Got a couple. Okay, so a lot of you are currently doing that. Fantastic. If you're somebody here that hasn't done that yet, I highly recommend you look into it. We can flag and show you where to find this as well later on. In the search term reports, a little sort of method I use just to help you out to find the good and the bad faster is sort by highest cost per click first, because that's what's eating your budget. So look at what is eating your budget the most and filter out add to negative if it's not relevant, include if it is relevant, and you'll find that that cost per click should go down if you've added it to your keyword pool. But be careful as well. With keyword pools, you really don't want massive long lists per each of your campaigns. We like to really keep it to like around 10 to 15 keywords per ad group, ideally. That's not set in stone, but it's just manageable. And Google really likes it when you know exactly what you want to go after and you're very specific about your targeting. I've also got here that I filter it in sort of high clicks, because again, you can have death by 1,000 cuts. So your cost per click might be really, really low, but you might have 1,000 clicks at 10p, which then will cost you a fortune longer term as well. And then just looking at the high cost as well. How do you know if you're already doing organically?
We'll look at that one when we get to point 5 and have a break. We've got time for a couple of questions there. So if anyone's got any other questions, just pop them in the chat and we'll pick a couple up then.
Exactly, yeah, perfect. So I've got here as well, so don't pay to rank if you're already winning organically. So I think somebody, I think Matt beat me to it there. But there's a couple of ways that you can find that out. I mean, you can do it the very old-fashioned way of popping into incognito. It's not completely untracked anymore, so they do know who you are quite well now. But you can see your rankings there when you type in keywords. Or what I like to do, and it's more accurate, is use something like Google Search Console, which you can add. And you can add your website to it, and you can start to understand what search queries people are searching for to find your website and what position you currently are for those search queries on the search results pages of Google as well. So that's a really good way to understand your organic strength first, so that you can focus more on your weak areas. Now, the only reason why you might want to double down if you're strong organically and you want to apply ads on top of that is if you're in a very highly competitive place, and when you type in your organic query and you are first organically, if you've got competitors constantly trying to get that top spot with an ad, you may want to consider just giving yourself some brand protection there by double layering it. It's not ideal, but there are certain industries where unfortunately that is necessary just to keep that top spot yours as well. And I've got here as well, keep broad match like fire, useful, dangerous. I'm going to go into match types in a bit more detail later on as well after our break. I'm going to move on to point 5 now before we just take a quick break for some questions. But I think I'll answer that last question, but if there are any more in the chat, we'll answer a couple in a second. But your ad worked, but your landing page didn't. This is another common problem that we see time and time again, where our clients have really put a lot of work into the ads, the ad structure, and we get back to them with an audit and say, actually, everything's looking great. You've really done a good job with positioning everything. Your targeting is very clean and very precise. But actually, when we go to a landing page, it's another story. We don't know what you're actually trying to get a user to do. So you should make the call to action really clear and upfront. And it's really sometimes messy on the landing page. As the age-old saying goes, you can lead a horse to water, but it's not good if that water is a muddy puddle. I may have modified that a little bit, but you get the drift. So I've got here a brief example of a good landing page. I just want to state, though, that don't use this as a blueprint plan. I don't believe there actually is one. There are a lot of different methods, and I've got a helpful guide to show you some examples, the slide after this, with a QR code that you can scan. But just for this presentation, I just wanted to just give you a bit of an idea of what a good landing page might look like. So that's, first of all, like we mentioned before, ensuring that you're matching your message in your ads with the messaging on the landing page, ensuring that the tone follows through to the actual landing page as well is really important, not just for the user, but for Google Ads to want to rank your ads higher in those top 3 positions. Cut any distractions that just are not necessary, and give that one clear goal that you're trying to achieve. If it's like a sign up, a purchase, anything like that, make it super clear, super easy, and frontline and center. And then also a really important aspect is ensuring that your website is fast, it's accessible, and it's really clear as well, because people might be accessing it from different devices, such as mobile phones, tablets, etc. And so you want to make sure that it's a really, really easy platform for them to jump onto, understand what to do in order to get that result. Because ultimately, if you skip this part, you're spending money getting the traffic to the landing page, and then that's it, which is where a lot of people fall with spending and overspending on Google Ads, sadly. I'll leave it on this screen here for now, which gives you a QR code that you can scan with some SEMrush. It's a tool that I use for SEO and PPC. They did a really good article on examples of great landing pages for pay-per-click campaigns. So I highly recommend that you take a look at that. And I will, since we're halfway through now, I'll take maybe 1 or 2 questions, and then I'll do more at the end of the Q&A.
So I think we've got one question in the chat from Matt, but I think you've already answered that. Has anybody got a question they want to ask now before we move on to the second part? Okay.
Perfect.
I'm going to say move on then, Luke. And this slide with the QR code, it'll all be in the information we share afterwards.
Exactly that. Exactly that. No
What's
worries.
the next one there?
So, as a wise old man once said, understanding is the first step to acceptance. That wise old man was Albus Dumbledore. I know he technically doesn't exist, but I thought the quote was fitting. So, with that in mind, let's finish with some fundamentals. And again, some of you are going to already know this, but there might maybe some of you that would just like a bit of a refresher as well. So, in point 6, I just wanted to highlight that not all ad types, campaign types, are created equally. I've got the top 3 that I find I tend to use quite often, being search ads on Google, display, and then we've got here Performance Max as well, which is creeping into all of our lives at the moment. I just wanted to clarify sort of the use cases more so for each of them, so that you know that you're using them in the correct manner as well. And if you're interested in using one of these in the future, you might know when then to use them. So the first one doesn't really need much of an explanation. You've likely all at some point managed some search ads. They're text-based. They're one of my favorite ad types, in fact, because they're high intent. People are searching for the particular solution that you're trying to advertise. So there's a high likelihood that you're going to get a click. And the risk is then, are you setting up the campaigns correctly? Are you targeting correctly in order to ensure that click is accurate for you? Because there are a lot of people with high intent. It's about making sure that your ad and your ad's intent matches with theirs. That's the challenge that a lot of people struggle with from time to time. So I've got here as well an example of display ads. I find that these tend to be a bit more brand aware focused first, so less about the conversions. However, they do generate them, but more about kind of subtle brand positioning than anything else. So you'll find these on websites. I'm sure you've seen them on YouTube, on apps, etc. And they work really, really well with search ads as well. So to get your brand front of mind to begin with, and then to perhaps build some brand trust and authority before then showing up in the search results page for a solution, whether it be a service or a product as well. And then here I've got Performance Max, which a lot of people are using now and getting used to, but there's still some confusion over kind of what it actually does. And to put simply, it's a cross-channel campaign, which means every single format of Google Ads campaign that you can think of, it will generate an ad type for, and it will kind of filter out, and it will go, and it will put your ad messaging, your visuals, etc., in all of those places and try and configure the best areas that actually perform the best for you. Now, one of the misunderstood areas of Performance Max is it tends to learn in 2 different ways, and I'm grossly simplifying this here. There are others, but the two main ways that I've noticed is, of course, self-learning with Google and its best practices. But secondly, it learns off the feedback from your previous campaigns in terms of their success, what you're targeting, how you set things up, which is why I emphasize that in ensuring that your tracking is set up correctly, ensuring that your campaigns are nicely ordered, accurate, precise with your keyword targeting, and that you're getting actual conversions come through. All of that data is great learning for ensuring that the Performance Max campaigns understand what it is you're looking for and to get more of it. Sometimes I find that if that's wrong and that's set up incorrectly at the start, Performance Max can sometimes just emphasize that, and then you can just get more of those poor results that you weren't really looking for. So a lot of people find that it's great for conversions, but not necessarily good for qualified conversions. If that is the case, it's likely a bigger question as to how you've set things up and your targeting prior as well. Another area that I wanted to talk about, so point 7, is popular bidding strategies and how to use them as well, because I think there is still some confusion as to when perhaps would be a good time to switch. Sometimes people will set a bidding strategy and just leave it forever. And I would recommend, a little bit like motorway driving, try not to stick in the middle lane for too long. Try to position yourself around into different lanes when the time is right. So the first bidding strategy that I've highlighted here that we use a lot is maximize clicks. We likely all know this one. The goal would be to get more traffic to your page, not necessarily conversions. It's great when you're starting a brand new campaign and you kind of want to release the floodgates a little bit, let the traffic come in and understand how qualified the traffic actually is and learn from the data that's coming through. The risk with this, though, is that you can get wasted budgets way. Of course, you're going to get a lot of clicks, but if you really need to get a return on your investment quickly, this can sometimes take time and you'll end up getting clicks, but maybe not getting the return that you were looking for. And that's where the next automated bidding strategy comes in, which is maximize conversions. This is a very popular one with many. I'm sure you probably are all running or have ran campaigns with this particular bidding strategy. And this is focused on getting more of your goals that you've set up. So your conversion goals, whether that be sales or inquiry forms or email signups, etc. Now, this is important, and I'm going to cover this in a later slide, but Google doesn't know if you set up your tracking 100% correctly. So it's really important that you understand that your tracking is accurate and valuable if you are using this particular bidding strategy, because otherwise it will still work to get more conversions for you and not understand that actually perhaps the conversions that you've asked it to get are not as valuable as you think they are. I'll cover that a little bit later in a slide or two's time. And then we've got here target CPA, or target return on investments. That's target cost per acquisition, cost per conversion, if you wish, and target return on ad spend, as I mentioned. These are great if you've got particular criteria, particular goals that you're looking to achieve, where you don't want to overspend on a conversion. You know how much a particular conversion would potentially generate you, and you can set what you're comfortable with in terms of spending to achieve that. Now, whether that target is reasonable or not, Google will decide that for you. So there are times where you set a target to say £50 is how much I really want to spend for an inquiry. Google might say, actually, in this space, looking at the data, it's about £100 or £150 per inquiry. So you then want to then consider your strategy depending on that a little bit more. So you can get a lot of data from Google as to what your industry specifically is costing as well. And you can do a lot of this behind the scenes before you're actually putting your money where your mouth is as well. So it's worth really considering putting a cost per acquisition on your campaigns once you've got a couple of conversions rolling through and they're starting to show accuracy as well. So I can cover this in a little bit more detail. I always find that with this particular bidding strategy, there's a lot to talk about here. So if there are any questions specifically around this one at the end, do let me know, because there's a lot that could be covered. And the last one I wanted to mention here is the manual CPC, which is what I grew up on when I first started my Google Ads journey. And it's quite literally how you would imagine it to be. It's like you're in a live auction house, but just virtual, and you're raising your hand saying, I'll take that particular ad position for 55p. Oh, someone's outbid me. Okay, 65p. Oh, 75p, or I'll lower it, etc. And manual CPC is fantastic when you're really looking to fine tune and take control of your ads. But in order to do manual CPC correctly, you really have to be in your ads, I would say daily, and to be totally honest with you. If that's not possible, and you're in your ads every other day to every couple of days, then using maximize clicks and maximize conversions tends to be the better option, because Google will make those quick decisions for you to ensure you're always bidding to the top where you can do. A little tip as well, just to give you, when you're starting that new campaign and you've got maximize clicks on because you've got no conversion data, you want to wait until you start to see conversions come through. You will eventually find they do come through if your ads are set up well. At that point, when you start to get a couple trickle through, that's when you might want to then consider switching your bidding strategy from maximize clicks to maximize conversions. And then Google has something to look at and learn from in terms of the conversions that matter to you, and then we'll try and get more of those for you. The mistake people make is sometimes switching to maximize conversions straight away. Google doesn't know what it's looking for, and then it can take a long time. It's not to say it won't work, but it often takes far longer that way. You can flip that on its head as well. So if a campaign which was converting stops for some reason, and you have a week or two of no conversions, you may want to flick it back to maximize clicks in order to pick up more momentum, open that floodgate a little bit, let traffic in, and then once you start to get some more conversions that are high quality, maybe flip it back to maximize conversions. But do this over weeks of time. Don't be switching them every day, for example. Otherwise, Google will just not have enough time to understand what it is it's trying to achieve for you. Talking of which, on point 8, in terms of match types, are we all familiar with match types? I'd like to think if we're an intermediate crowd here, we are. Can we get some thumbs up if we are familiar? And perhaps a shocked face if we're not familiar, because it'd be interesting to know if there's anyone here that's not so familiar. Don't be shy either. So just to give you a very quick run through, again, I don't want to teach you all to suck eggs here, but just for those that might not be as confident in the room with match types, I've just got here the perfect example that a lot of people have probably seen in the past. I've Googled running shoes for men. If I were to add running shoes for men as a broad match with no casing on, so just literally typing in that keyword, then I'm likely to get quite a wide reach, and I don't have much control over it. So at the top right here, you can see that broad match might show up how to tie shoes. It might find similar search queries, such as cheap trainers, which are related to shoes, of course, or walking boots. Now, this is great if you're not sure what your target audience is actually typing in. And so you could learn from this and say, well, actually, I'm definitely not looking for cheap trainers, people that are looking for cheap trainers or walking boots. So I'm going to add that to a negative list so that I don't spend money on people that are looking for that specifically. However, you might just want to, like I mentioned before, open the floodgates just to see to begin with, but do treat it in a balanced sense. Google Ads loves to promote just using broad match and nothing else, which I think can be very, very dangerous if you're looking to protect your budget, which you should be in order to ensure that it's spending as wisely as possible. You've then got phrase match here as well. So with phrase match, similar sort of story here. It will try and find the search term that you've targeted and try and fit it within a particular phrase that a user has searched. So it's kind of getting close now with best running shoes for women. But as you can see here, I've actually searched running shoes for men. So if I was advertising running shoes for men, for example, and I got a click specifically for someone looking for women's running shoes, as close as that is, I would still have to fork out the money for the cost of that click, but I wouldn't get the conversion because the person's looking for running shoes for men. And then again, the exact match, you know the story by now. It will just, now it has been modified slightly to this, but for the most part, it will look exact phrase that you are typing in. What you want to be careful of here is use this in kind of like you want to kind of balance things out where you can when you're building your campaigns out, because explaining it like this, it's very easy to say, well, I just want accuracy and I just want a high quality conversion, so I'm just going to exact match absolutely everything. Why would I do anything different? The reason why you don't want to do that is because if you did, your clicks would be trickling and be hardly anything. They're likely to be very expensive as well. You pay more for that extra level of intent and detail. And also, you don't learn anything either, which is critical with Google Ads. So I always find that it's actually really nice to have a nice delicate mixture of some broad match, some phrase match, and some exact match. That way you can look to see in the search term reports, are there opportunities that you're missing which could get you a cheaper click and still get you that conversion? And also, are there pitfalls? Are people searching something particular which might somehow get through to your ad? And could you exclude that to save your budget from being wasted on people with the wrong intent for what you're looking for as well? So having the balance of the three is really important. And on that topic as well with keywords, potentially consider following your users as well to some degree. So we work a lot with remarketing lists, as I'm sure you do from time to time. And some really simple remarketing lists to consider could be setting up a remarketing list on Google Ads, for Google Analytics, for users who have visited your site over the past 30 days. That's a very standard remarketing audience list build, takes seconds to make. You might want to include or exclude users who have engaged specific actions. So if you're just looking for new users, let's say, you don't want anyone who's a returning user or anyone that's made a previous purchase or an inquiry. You can set that up. And it's the same with specific pages. If you just want to remarket to people that have only been on a said page with a specific product or service interest, you can do that. And that can be really, really useful for both search campaigns, display campaigns as well. And 10, so I'd mentioned this briefly before, but tracking real value and real success. This one hurts inside a little bit when I do an audit and I realize that actually the great results that the prospect has shown me don't actually translate to real value. And this can happen in a couple of different ways, and I'll explain that. So with Google Ads, it will allow you to set up conversions, and you can set one to primary. So primary conversions, there where basically all the value is. You want your form completions or your purchases to be primary. That's what you're telling Google, I want to spend money to achieve more of this. And with the secondary conversions, you're saying to Google, I want to know the numbers that I generate with these conversions, but I don't want to pay for them in any way. So if I just so happen to get a newsletter sign up, great. I want to be able to see that number, but I don't want you to bid for it. I don't want you to pay extra for it. And where I see a lot of people fall in this area is either they've got primary conversions that are non-valuable, such as local direction clicks, for example, which might be for some, but from a lot of the clients that I've worked with are not that valuable. And then what you find is not only have they got a lot of those conversions, so the conversions look great on the outside, but they've actually spent a huge amount of money to achieve them as well, with again little value off the bat. But just to add on top of this, I've got here as well setting up and testing your conversions to make sure they are working effectively and are set up right as well. We've got GTM here, which is Google Tag Manager. You can sometimes have a situation where you've got a primary conversion, such as a form completion, let's say. It's set up right, it looks shiny, it looks perfect on Google Ads, but then when you go to look at the background in Google Tag Manager to see how it's set up, I've had a couple of occasions where I've noticed that the trigger is when someone lands, for example, just on the contact page and actually isn't filling out the form. So we would normally say, I'm sure all of us here would agree, that for a conversion to count for a form completion, you probably want to set a trigger for when a user hits the thank you page, for example, or if you don't have a thank you page, visibility, getting technical here, but I can explain this in a one-to-one if need be. if you've got like a thank you for submitting your inquiry form, you can do tracking to only trigger when you see that, for example. There are cases where you've done everything right with having primary conversions be valuable, secondary be low value. But if you miss that piece of checking that your actual valuable conversions are correct, then that can also lead to, unfortunately, a decline in your return on ad spend as well. So just to recap here, I've covered a lot of ground, so I hope that you've all drank a lot of coffee this morning, and if you've got any questions off the back, then don't worry, I can always catch up with you privately. Google Ads is basically all about iteration more than anything else. It's about quality over quantity. That's what's really important here. And sometimes Google can lead you down the quantity over quality route, which you want to fight against as much as possible. So keep your structure, the structure of all of your campaigns, clean and concise. Write ads that people want to click. Read them. If you think, oh, that doesn't sound right, I wouldn't want to click that. Neither would they. Track what matters only and keep it clean. Don't think about over complicating your tracking. Match bidding strategy to your goals and use AI automation wisely. So I'm not saying don't use it. It's an incredibly valuable tool, but don't overdo it. Don't blanket all your campaigns with just AI guidance because it will spend and not necessarily give you the results that you're looking for. And listen to the data as well. So look at what's doing well, look at what's not, and react accordingly to it, such as your search term reports. Anyway, that's been me. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, you can scan this QR code as well. And if you want to arrange a 30-minute PPC slot with me, feel free to give Rose an email as well, and we can arrange that. I'm open to any questions you may have now.
So we've got a couple of questions in the chat now, which I'm happy to read out unless you want to do them yourselves. So I'll read these two out, and then if anyone's got any more questions, do jump in. So we've got one: my conversion tracking sometimes doubles up or reads multiple conversions. Is there a fast way to fix this?
Okay, yes. So it's difficult to give advice, of course, without looking at the way that you've set them up. But the first thing I would look at here is if you've set them up in Google Tag Manager, it sounds to me like there's a bit of a firing issue where it's perhaps firing on two different reasons. It could be firing once because it's hit a certain page, and it could be firing a second time because you've clicked a certain event. I would say if you've set it up with Google Tag Manager, look there. You can run a test of the tag in a debugger window to see if it's triggered once or twice. Investigate that as much as possible, because you definitely don't want to be doubling up your conversions like that, because it's also lying to Google to some degree. So your cost per conversion will be warped, and of course your reporting will be warped. So investigate that first. If you haven't set it up through Google Tag Manager and you've done it a different way, then I would recommend creating, for example, if you've set it up in Google Ads, creating a separate conversion and redoing it and testing it to see where the bug is. I sometimes find reverse engineering conversion tracking helps me understand where that breaking point is. But it sounds to me like that's a tag manager problem, which we'd be happy to look at as well if that's something you don't have time for. All right.
Sounds like that answered Nikita's question. Right, so we've got one more in the chat, and then we can open the floor. So just sort of looking for guidance on setting up conversions with GTM and GA4. So have you got any good resources to kind of, or recommendations to kind of how you learn a bit more about that, how you go about doing it?
Resources, there's a minefield of resources, and as I'm sure we all know in marketing, things change on a daily, sometimes I would say by minute basis. So a lot of things that you read are sadly out of date by the time you've actually read them. But this would sound broad in terms of advice, but trust me, it's the best I can give here. It would be to follow YouTubers in particular. Love Data is a great one. Yep, so Matt's literally just pointed Love Data out. That was very weird timing there as well. So Love Data is a great YouTuber. There's a couple of others which, Matt, if you could put them in the chat, that would be fantastic. But the reason why I recommend YouTube is because they update the setup of these conversion tracking tutorials, because the platform changes, where things are changed. We all know Google loves to reposition things. So I find that watching them, building it with them helps a lot. But we also do that for our clients as well. So if you, for example, don't have the time to do it, we could build them, we could record how we build them so that you then have that knowledge to recreate them in the future. But if I were to give any help as well, just ensuring that you've got the basic tracking setup is really important. So if that's a form completion, a phone click, an email click, think about those basic tracking areas first. And if you don't have them, set them up and test them in GTM.
Okay, great. Thank you, Luke. Has anybody got a question that they would like to ask? Okay, yeah, so Matt's putting some more things into the chat, and we can share these along with the slides afterwards as well. Just making a note. Okay, so okay, you've already moved on to the next slide. Thank you, Luke. So our next one of these sessions will be around AI and innovation. The exact title is still to be confirmed. But Nick Roberts, our CEO and founder, will be running that one, and that is on Tuesday, the 23rd of September at 11 o'clock. And we'll send some details in the next few weeks, just so we can get some placeholders in your calendar for that. Hopefully you've all found today a useful session. As I said, I'll share all the information. I think there was a lot of detail in there, Luke, so thank you very much, but it'll give you time to digest some things. And as you said, if you want to get it in touch just to find out a bit more about this or book a session with Luke, then please do. But thank you all for attending, and Luke, thank you very much for sharing those tips.